is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Welcome in, Paul Catalina, Royden Ogletree.
I'm here.
You may not remember. It's been a couple of weeks. Royden has gotten a promotion at work, and because of that, his time is, sometimes you get promoted and your time opens up. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you get promoted and your time swallows you.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I'm not one to complain about a promotion and pay raise and all that stuff, but it is like all of a sudden, oh, there's this whole spectrum of responsibility that I have to do, and the triple option and all these podcasts and stuff that I have done out of the kindness of my heart and love for you and this company have kind of gone by the wayside.
Yeah, no, and look, we've yesterday is your normal day, and then I had some family stuff to do. My mom's under the weather, and so she just got back from a 3-week cruise through Singapore, Bangkok, Hong Kong. Like,
jeez,
yeah, she does this stuff all the time. But she's getting older, and she's not holding up on these things like she used to. So she kind of she's got some kind of bronchitis or something, and so I had to tend to her yesterday, and so I really didn't have the brain space to do a show anyway. I told Garrett I would have just been here going like sports ball.
Schottenheimer.
Yeah, like you guys watch the, what's this one? The one that they do this. And then there's like a thing, and then they put this thing in the other thing.
It used to be peach baskets.
And it's like, and it goes whoosh. Yeah. Or sometimes it goes clang. That one.
Yeah.
That's how, like, I would have talked about
Cricket.
it, how I talk about things at a hardware or auto parts store that I don't know about. Like, I remember one time a friend of mine went in. We was for the radio station I was working at. We were trying to get some type of screws to help us, and then we realized that the tool we had, it was like we'd need a wrench.
Yeah.
And it was like, we need a and the guy goes, wrench?
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, Swanson, go ahead, get out of here.
I know more than you.
Yeah, I like that's what I thought, and I was like, oh God, it's embarrassing. But
I've done that a couple times where I've been like, where the measurements are so weird, where it's like, I need a 6/8 or what, and then we don't make that. And you're like, 5/8, bingo,
Yeah.
You got it, buddy.
Yeah, or like you'll go in and get your car fixed, and you're like, well, it's doing this,
Yeah.
and they're like, when? Like when I turn left.
Yeah.
And you're like, like, so now it's just going to be like, hey, do you want to get in the car with me and listen to this noise?
Yeah.
I don't know how to.
By the
describe
way,
it.
quick anecdote. I went and got my car fixed. I won't say by which company. Of course, they charged me way more money because they just magically found 1,000 things that were wrong with my car all of a sudden.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I wanted them to get fixed, the shake in my steering wheel, I mean, it was like rumbling going down the highway. I was like, can you like rotate the tires or do whatever? And they're like, yeah, we'll take a look at it. I got it back, and they said, we didn't find what you were looking for. Meanwhile, I'm driving back down the highway from the thing going like this. And I was like, I paid you $500 for what? And they're like, well, you had this thing and and all of a sudden your brakes don't work. And you're like, shout out if you're a mechanic. I don't trust you.
Yeah. I absolutely.
But I can't do it because I don't know anything about cars.
I don't know enough about it. I know just enough to where I can not really get taken for a ride anymore.
Yeah.
Which I'm pretty happy with myself.
You've advanced to that portion.
Even then, that's that's just I'm just not good at that stuff.
Yeah.
I really, and it's hard to find people you trust. Like if you have to, like when you're a homeowner, if you find a guy who'll tell you like, all right, look,
yeah,
if you go this way, this is how much it's going to cost. If you do this, let me tell you what it really costs.
You don't want to do this.
You don't want to do this. That's good. As opposed to, somebody who's like, yeah, well, I mean, the flanges on all this stuff. Like, you need new flanges and new giggle pits and new all these things.
And I gotta get my guys on this project.
This is going to take 2 or 3 guys. And you know what? That's where you go. I get a second opinion. I gotta find this. And usually you call a guy and he's like, oh no, man, I got you. This and this and this. A giggle pit's not a thing. Okay, this doesn't even have a flange. All of that.
When we bought our home, the company, of course, has a 1-year warranty, and the idea is hey, if anything goes wrong, something falls off, something's chipping away or something, they will come and fix it within that 1-year warranty, no questions asked. That's what it was pitched to us as new dumb homeowners. Mm-hmm. Of course, things were chipping off on concrete and things like that at the base of the house. I bring the guy out there, and I tell, yeah, this is coming off, da-da-da-da-da. He's like, oh, we don't cover any of that.
Yeah.
That's on you. I'm like, huh?
Yeah.
What?
No.
He's like, no, you have to mix concrete and fix that.
Yeah. Insurance is a weird animal, right? It's a very weird animal where, sometimes you're like, wow, this is great. And then you hey, I have a really tragic thing that happened to my house. I'm like, oh yeah, that's terrible. We really feel for you. But if you read page 475 of your agreement, we only cover things that aren't tragic.
Yeah. When I was in Beaumont, they just straight up, we're not selling flood insurance to people. And Harvey came through, and they were just like, well, nevertheless.
Yeah. Royden, we'll talk Super Bowl at the end of this. And next week,
Yay.
Next week I won't see you because Garrett and Emery and I and Smokey will be at Radio Row.
At said Super Bowl.
Yeah, in New Orleans. Balls deep in gumbo, which I think,
That's okay. That's one way to consume it. I would use your mouth. But
Look, here's the thing. If they give me, let's just say, a vat of it, we'll be all right. I mean, do you think the 4 of us could take down a literal vat of gumbo?
I mean, it's worth a shot.
I'm not even starting at bowl or larger bowl. I'm starting at vat.
Like the things when you go to a brewery and you see
Yes.
the stall.
Yes. I want them to have a gumbo vat. I'm sure, you know what? That's a great name for a restaurant.
Gumbo vat?
Not in New Orleans. In New Orleans, it wouldn't work.
No.
But outside, if you get to just past the East Texas part where there's Cajuns.
Yeah.
If you get past just that, the gumbo vat, I think
that would have worked in my hometown.
Yeah. If you go hey, where are you guys going to eat? Oh, the gumbo vat. Got a special on etouffee on Tuesdays.
Can I ask you, out of all the New Orleans, and now I haven't been there in now 10 years, but I've frequented it a few times. What is the best food or most underrated food, I guess, or the most overrated food? And this is great radio, by the way.
Yeah.
This is midday radio.
Yeah. I don't know if there's
because, I'm saying, is it worth waiting for beignets at Café Du Monde? Because I enjoy the experience.
Look, I enjoy Café Du Monde. The bidets.
Speaking of a vat of gumbo.
Worth it. But the beignets are good, but there are equal to better beignets at other spots. Yeah. So I would say the Café Du Monde experience is a little bit overrated. I think it's something it's really cool to do because it's right there in Jackson Square. So it's a cool place to be.
It's also inflation proof. It's $5.
Yeah, so you can't charge that much for it.
Yeah.
I will say this, they do put way too much powdered sugar in the bag to where it's I can't just wear all white so that this doesn't show up.
Yeah, somebody said you look like Scarface showing up on radio.
Yeah, you do, absolutely. So I would say, I think most things in New Orleans are properly rated. I think that because you can't, it's one of those things, it's the big leagues, right?
Yeah.
So when you're talking about food in New Orleans, if you're going to make it, you got to be ready to be in the big leagues. You can't, it's not just one of those things where you can be a first-round draft pick, but if you can't hit a curveball, you're not going to make it, right? So New Orleans is that. So where if you're going to make it in New Orleans, you better be good, because not even just the tourists don't know, right? Tourists is a big thing, but there are, like, you're going to make it in New Orleans because locals will come to you.
Right.
You know, now there are places downtown and that, like, adjacent to the French Quarter that are just kind of random, you know, and that it's the tourists that go there, you know, and it probably tastes good. I say that like I'm not, but I feel like I've been to New Orleans enough to where I'm like, oh, this is a tourist place. And actually, one of my favorite parts about this job is that at least every 3 years I get to go there.
Go to New Orleans for something. Yeah.
For work. You know, I don't like it's because it's one of my favorite places. But yeah, I mean, charbroiled oysters are my favorite thing at Drago's. Love it. But then there's restaurants like Couchon that's like one of those expensive ones. But if you look for the right, you'll just turn into things that are like, oh, this is really good.
This is the best thing I've ever had all of a sudden.
Yeah, and then you're like, oh, tell me about your chef. And it's like, oh, well, he grew up here, and then he went to, like, here and here, and then he got tired of cooking fancy, you know, frou-frou shit, and he said, like, you know what, I'm gonna bring
Make
this back.
sandwiches.
Yeah, I'm gonna come back here, and then I'm gonna make the best etouffee you've ever had in your life. You know, the way I know how to make it, the way all this, and then because you grew up making it, and then it's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I know we can talk about sports in a second, but like I would argue just real quick that New Orleans is the most underrated sandwich city in the entire United States. Like, all the Northeast has their own sandwiches and things like that, and of course you get down here and you got brisket and all that stuff. But like the variety of like. I just had the best muffaletta from a gas station that I've ever had in my entire life. Yeah. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah, because it's like if you go to the gas station and you're like Remy, he want the muffaletta.
Yeah,
and it's like, all right, and Remy's like, okay, I got you. I got that on the top of that right here. You know, like, and then all of a sudden, yeah, it's you're eating the best sandwich you've ever had in your life. Yeah, like, okay, I didn't like olive tapenade until I went to New Orleans. Then all of a sudden, I'm like, oh, well, this is what it's supposed to taste like.
Yeah.
No,
not out of a can.
Exactly.
In HEB.
Just a guy like chopping up olives and mixing it himself. Yeah, no, it's unbelievable. Mother's like, there's some places that have grown so popular that it's hard to like get to, like going to Mother's or something like that, but it's still really good. But I'll tell you, the best fried chicken in the world exists in New Orleans. It's Willie Mae Scotch House. There is no number, like everybody else is fighting for number 2. Everyone else. Willie Mae Scotch House, Lower Ninth Ward. Now they have one that's downtown, which is easier to get to. But, Q and his mom and I waited in line with Torrey Smith at the last Super Bowl in New Orleans. He was right behind us. And then right in front of us was T-Sizzle, Terrell Suggs' wife at the time, who was the definition of ratchet. Like, the absolute, like, if you were trying to describe what that word meant to someone, you would just show a video of this girl and be like, yeah, she was just, man. And like the whole time I'm like, look, I get it. Like, people have their own things, but come on, Sizzle, like you can do better than this.
Oh my God.
But
speaking of New Orleans, SEC.
Yes. Thank you.
This is the transition.
This is the transition. So it is that time of year where we transition to a little bit more basketball talk, Roy.
Yay!
And look, the Big 12, not quite as good as it was a year ago, but there are 4 more teams. Mm-hmm. And Iowa State, like, if you look at what teams are better or the same, Houston's the same.
Yeah,
they're still crazy dominant and good. I think Kansas is a little bit better, but they're
beatable.
They're beatable. Yeah, they're very beatable. Baylor is the same. Although I think that
They're
they lost
worse.
last night, but what, you think they're worse?
I think they're worse
You think they're worse
than last year. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if you want to chalk it up to their defense is just, inconsistent and at times bad.
Yeah.
I think they can score a little bit better than they could last year.
Yeah.
And especially when everybody's healthy, if Jeremy Roach is in, I could go on and on about Baylor, but I think without Misi and some other guys, I think their defense is at times horrendous, actually.
Yeah. I do think, if you saw it last night, what did Wright and Edgecombe score the last 25 points of the game?
Yeah, and they're unbelievable, and Edgecombe's going to be a top 5 pick, and Rob Wright may, hopefully he hangs around another year, but he may sneak into the first-round grade.
I think God gave Baylor a gift on that one by not making him tall.
Yeah, you think?
Yeah, they made a guy he's going to have to play a couple years. So the NBA goes, all right, we'll take a chance on
shooting numbers have to get more consistent with him, but he's an unbelievable player. Yeah,
but the NBA has, and rightfully so. They have a little guy thing where you know what, this big guy who can't shoot from 3 feet away, we'll take a chance on him. But listen, little buddy, hey buddy, listen, we really left your work ethic, and you've got a great shot, but you're 6'1".
I mean, Reed Shepherd can't get on the floor for the Rockets.
Yeah.
That's a whole other thing, but it's the Amen Thompson thing, really. He's 6'7" athletic freak that cannot. I mean, the shot coming out of his hands from 3 looks like a grenade.
Yeah.
But he's awesome. So it's just we'll take the guy that runs and jumps high.
Yeah, and then they're listen, we appreciate. Pierre Jackson had an unbelievable career in the G League,
China, all over Europe.
All over the place. He scored in a preseason game one time playing against other NBA players. He scored 58 points.
He got in for Dallas a couple of years, 10 years ago or whatever, where he was he dropped 15 points in 10 minutes, and people were like, what is this guy? And then they sent him back down in the G League.
The dude could score.
Yeah.
But he wasn't 6 feet tall. So, he's all of 5'10", 5'11".
Yeah.
Maybe he might have been 6'0". Pierre's not tall. Mm-mm. But he could score, and he was, that's where I think what's going to happen with Rob Wright, where it's look at the little, their thing is this little guy, look at him. He's going through all the big guys. That's cute. We'll give him a shot, but
yeah,
he's not going to grow. So that's maybe where Baylor benefits there, is where VJ Edgecombe was made in a lab.
Yeah.
So it's
do you want Dwayne Wade? We got him.
When you create a player on the video game, you're okay, I would like him to be 6'6". I would like him to be this muscular and this fast and jump this high.
Yeah, 99 jump.
Yeah, it's just all sliders all the way to the end. So, but I did want to compare it to the SEC, and this is something we talked about on the main show about. So the SEC has all this extra money compared to everybody else. The Big Ten has it too. But the SEC has been, their basketball, they've had, Kentucky's won national titles, Florida's won national titles, Alabama and Auburn, lately it's been better, but they had a long time where it was, and this is what I find hilarious, it was an insult in certain parts of the SEC to call someone a basketball school. If you were, I remember being at a Florida FSU game,
but wouldn't you agree that they have
basketball school it's an insult, and you're wait, but don't you want to be good at everything?
But wouldn't you argue that they have if not the basketball school, one of
they have
the 5 basketball schools?
Yeah, they have Kentucky, but Kentucky was fine with that because they were. You know what? This is basketball here. But when you were if you chanted basketball school to Alabama, Florida, Tennessee, Auburn, they would well, that's, I don't know why you'd say that. We're down on our luck right now, but the basketball team's good. It makes us happy. Why are you saying you were a basketball school? Well, why are you insulted by it?
Don't put in the newspaper that I'm a basketball school.
Yeah, it's fine. Be a basketball school. Be an everything school. But because they have all this extra money, that they're making on their media deal, this is what is going on in the SEC this year is ridiculously special. And like, even though they might be good for years to come, I don't think you're going to repeat this year anytime soon because they have 16 teams in the league and
10 are in the top 20.
Yeah, and 13 of them are legitimately good.
Yeah.
Like legitimately really good. And then there's 3 that are just kind of like, well, they're there. But even then, they're not even that bad. So,
like Texas, they have all, they have these top recruits and stuff, but even then, it's like Texas could beat anybody, and they're quote unquote having a down year. They're unranked and they're towards the bottom end of the SEC, but like they're going to sneak into the tournament. I wouldn't be surprised if they win a game in the tournament. Like I don't necessarily want to compare because the Big 12 has had more success, I believe, than the SEC in basketball over the last, anecdotally over the last 10 years.
Yeah, I'm going to say there's 3 teams in the SEC that will definitely not make the tournament, and that's LSU, Arkansas, and South Carolina. And Arkansas, I think, got foisted by Calipari. I think the game is totally
passing
by. Yeah.
And when they played Baylor, and now Baylor's more down than I believe that they were. They played Baylor competitively, and Arkansas was ranked in the top 25 at the time when they played. So maybe that'll go on the Baylor resume. But you could tell that maybe they weren't top 25 ready whenever they played in Dallas at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, but look, Tennessee's 8th in the country. They're 4-4 in that league. I mean, that's how tough it is, and they're fantastic. Texas is going to wind up making the tournament. Georgia's probably going to wind up making the tournament, and Oklahoma will be the bubble team. So you're talking about 11 teams for sure, 10 locks in the tournament out of the 16. And look, that number used to be ridiculous, but now we have 16, 18, 17 team conferences. It's not that wild, but the SEC, here's the other thing that could happen, though, and the SEC better be careful of this because they've not really had this all that often. I think the Big 12 has been to its own detriment sometimes in the tournament because it's such a physical, brutal league.
Cannibalize itself.
By the time they get to the tournament, they're also beat up. They've played so many tough games that that team that's just locked in and hasn't played that many yet, and you've got guys playing at 80% and just trying to be in the tournament, and their guys are all at 100, that's when they lose, right? Because you're the big bad wolf, and then you lose that 12-5, and that team's not necessarily better than you, but you've just the last 2 weeks of your year has been playing 6 really amazing teams, and then a tournament.
A tournament where they beat the crap out of each other even more.
Physically, they just you watch the Big 12 tournament, and it is an absolute street fight out there the whole time. And then they go and, they win their first round game against so-and-so state. But you can tell in the first half, they're like, I'm tired.
Yeah. Legs are shot.
Tired.
The flip side of the coin is that
I have scratches that won't heal.
Yeah, exactly. Been punched in the mouth.
Yeah.
The flip side of that coin is or you would have the SEC over the past few years, who has been good, and Tennessee has been up there, and Kentucky has always had all the great players. Calipari will tout how many first-round picks that he's always had. But the flip side of that coin is that you get a Kentucky like last year, who has on paper the most talent. Well, they have two of the top 5 picks in the NBA draft with Reed and was it Castle?
Yeah,
yeah, and they're just not prepared for those teams because the schedule hasn't been as daunting.
No,
as there's a give and a take to that. Not saying that Kentucky hadn't played tough teams when they went into those tournaments, but there's a give and a take. There's a good middle ground that I think that the Big 12 would need to find, and maybe it's the ACC.
Yeah,
but there's the SEC is running headlong into that. We just beat the mess out of each other all season.
Auburn's still winning, and they've been doing so without the best player in the country, in Johnny Broom. So that's how good things are right now.
Yeah.
For them.
Do you trust a Pearl team in the tournament though?
Here's the thing. I think I think the reason that Bruce Pearl loses games is not because he's not a good coach. It's because he's a bit of a jagweed, and there's karma for that. Like, it's the
same with Tennessee. It's like it's maybe unfair to the players there, but they don't have the why am I playing? He was at Texas forever, and now is at Tennessee.
Rick Barnes.
Yeah, they don't know that Rick Barnes has failed and failed again in the tournament. I guess they do, but like. It's not on them that Rick Barnes has failed in the tournament, but do you trust Rick Barnes?
Johnny Broom is back. He's just coming off the bench, although he played 33 minutes last night. But yeah, but they did that for a while without him, and they're still they have one loss.
They're really
they're ridiculous. I think he makes the other team so geeked up to beat you. I'll never forget what he said about Davion Mitchell, where he was like, "Oh yeah, they recruited him off our roster and all this." Like, okay, well, you didn't do anything to keep him, and then now, he decided not to sit. Like, this is not transfer portal where you go and play right away.
He decided to leave and sit.
He decided to leave and sit because he wanted to be somewhere else more. That's not recruiting off the roster like it is now. Like, that's a completely different thing. He decided that he and Jared Butler and
Maceo Teague.
Yeah, and Maceo, they were going to sit in a gym by themselves and not play in games and just work at it for a year and then come out. Like, that's if people want to know what Baylor's been missing since then, it's that. It's that those guys had this like trial by fire of, okay, you're gonna watch a good team out there, because the Baylor was really good before they got there. They were good. They got to number 1 in the country, and they're like, you're gonna see a good team, but you can't come in and help at all. Like, you have to just sit there. And
I remember
you're gonna feel great. You're gonna shoot 1,000 shots a day, and they're all gonna go in, and they could all go in. It doesn't matter because of the rules. You can't come in this game and help them. That made that team pretty great.
I remember when I was still covering sports before I went into producing for a minute, and I was at a press conference. I believe it was 2019 when he had transferred in, and the rule was that I think that he was going to have to sit out, but there was maybe a chance that he could play if he got an exception or something like that. But ultimately, I think he ended up sitting out. And I remember asking Scott Drew about, Davion Mitchell, and he just, like, his eyes lit up. He was just like, yeah, he's going to be really good. He's going to help us down the road. And I remember asking things like, can he help this season? And he's like, no, but just wait. And he was absolutely 100% right. And going back to what Baylor is missing now, it's the depth thing. In that the transfer portal, and it's not just Baylor, so I don't want to like put this on him. At a press conference a few weeks ago, I think you can find it on Baylor's YouTube, I asked him about how they're navigating the transfer portal and NIL and building depth that way, whereas like guys come in now if they transfer and want to start and want to play 30 minutes a game. Mm-hmm. And that's just how the nature of the transfer portal works now. Because if you're transferring from a place that you were starting to go now be at a Baylor or a top-tier program, the idea is that you want to – I could have stayed in Norfolk State and, played 35 minutes a game or whatever and scored 30 points. But you mean to tell me that, like, I moved to not play? And that's sort of what he said the uphill battle was for – not just Baylor, but for teams in general. Also, Baylor had like, unlucky is kind of a harsh term, but a little bit, like Yves Missi was not supposed to be a first-round pick.
No.
Like Jeremy Sohan was not supposed to be a first-round pick.
No, they've hit on 2 guys like that.
Yeah.
That they were planning on having for at least a couple years.
Yep.
That were so good that they didn't get to build on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
that's I mean, it's a good problem to have, but also it's like, hey, we can tout these first-round picks, but it's also like to the detriment of your program of being like, oh, crap.
Okay.
Now I have to fill in.
That brings me to another thing. You want veteran players, but how veteran do you want them to be?
Yeah, like fifth-year transfers.
Because you want like a veteran team that's been together for a while. But I would posit to you that this year's Kansas team is an example of maybe sometimes you need to let guys go, because I think DeJuan Harris has hit the wall of his effectiveness, and he didn't even play last night. And they won. They won. But Hunter Dickinson's good, but, most 7-footers that are
fifth years in the league.
They're already in the league. So there's a reason he's not in the league.
There's a clear ceiling on that.
Grant, I know that there's he's making a ton of money at Kansas.
Yeah.
A ton of money. And good for him. I'm not saying he hasn't earned that money, but you do have to wonder, okay, if you're kind of content staying here, it's because you kind of know, or so they've told you. And most Kansas fans believe that Kansas's problem is not their newer guys. It's the fact that the older guys like KJ Adams, who came off the bench last night, and that was a way better thing, and he's coming off an injury. So, but that, he needs to stay coming off the bench. He needs to be an enforcer off the bench, because Flory Badunga is a better scorer right now than KJ Adams is. And KJ, sometimes I think guys get into the summer workouts and they're like, you know what? The NBA guys told me I need to work on my jumper, so I'm going to get in this game and I'm going to shoot jumpers. You're like, okay, work on your jumper if you're going to be in the NBA, but if it's not going to be good, and this is, I think, this is on Bill Self and the coaches, be like, look, no more jumpers. The coach we had from Oakland last year was hilarious when we had him on. And I said,
where he told what's-his-face to shoot, just only shoot threes?
Only shoot threes. I said, so you told him to only shoot threes. He's like, yeah, I yell at him when he shoots a layup. And I'm like, well, why would you? He's like, look, I have 4 other guys that can make layups.
Yeah.
I have this guy who can do that better than anybody in the country.
Was it Golke? Is that was it?
Yeah, Golke.
Yeah,
he's like,
Golke.
so
Yeah.
I'm not, he goes, look, I didn't get here by not knowing how things work. He's like, he's going to shoot threes. And, part of it is the fact that he's always going to shoot threes makes the defense have to react to the fact that he is standing outside, but he's not going inside.
Yeah.
So, somebody has to allow for him all the time, and he draws a lot of double teams because of that. So that's why they were able to do what they did, right? Because they've got this guy who's just going to shoot threes. He's going to make a ton of them, and the only thing you can maybe do is go throw a double team on him. Well, he also can pass
out of those double teams.
So
his shot chart when he went viral after that game against Kentucky, his shot chart when somebody pulled it up was the funniest thing. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go look up Jack Golke from Oakland last year, and his shot chart it was like 200 threes and then 2 2s, I think, were breakaway layups or something like
2
that.
little dots. And I think one of them was they got a steal, they just got a steal on an inbound, and he was just right there.
Yeah.
So he,
it's an unbelievable thing. It's like, no, you shoot threes.
Yeah, it would have been dumb to get the steal on the inbound,
run out,
and then run out. No, that's just wasting time. You're right there.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I don't know what brought, but what brought me about talking about
KJ
Oakland.
Adams or
KJ
whatever.
Adams. You have to force people to you're not shooting jumpers.
Yeah.
You are a layup and dunk guy. You're a layup and dunk guy. If you are more than 6 feet away, you can take it like a little hook, like a little short hook. But if you're more than 6 feet away and you shoot it, I'm going to hit you with this chair. That needs to be, it needs to be a little Bobby Knight. Yes, you're coming at and I watched Bill Self last year do it in the game with Nick Timberlake.
That poor guy. Oh my God.
Nick Timberlake got 1 missed shot. 1 missed shot. And if he missed a shot, and if he missed that shot because it was not a shot he should have taken, because he was by nature a chucker. And so if he missed 1 shot, he's coming out of the game. He could have gone in the game, caught a pass, taken that shot the next time that a substitute could happen. If Bill Self could have done a line change in hockey, where you run by the bench and a guy jumps on and it jumps off,
yank him off.
That's what he would have done. He would have line changed him. But with KJ Adams, he didn't do that. He's out there shooting jumpers, and you're like, come on, man, make him not do that. Like, you're in charge, Bill. You can tell him, stop shooting jumpers. But part of it, though, is I think these 6th-year guys, a lot of them have unbelievable, like Katria Adams and DeJuan Harris have unbelievable work ethic. They are team guys. They are the shining example of how you should practice and prepare. They're not exact, but they're not like helping. You're rewarding them by starting them and playing these minutes because of that. But also, you've got players who can do things and win more in the modern context than that.
I think the platonic ideal of what is what they've done at Houston. I mean, especially with Baylor fans will scoff, but especially with LJ Cryer and stuff. You know, they got him as a sophomore, I believe, or as like a redshirt junior. So he had, or a COVID junior. So he had 3 more years to play. I think that's what you got to start doing. You got to start taking these for anybody. You got to start taking these flyers on these guys that, you know, are good, but maybe underperformed or just younger guys is what I'm saying. I don't think that you can, in modern college basketball, you can field a true dynasty or make multiple championship runs with, we're going to get the 5-star freshman, but then we're going to backfill with 4th and seniors and 5th-year seniors and even 6th-year seniors. Like the not the chemistry, the calculus just doesn't work there.
I think you need some sort of middle ground.
Yeah, you have to get guys that are going to be in there for, and it may be bad one year, but the next year, hopefully the chemistry comes together. And it's not to say that you don't take the 5-star players. That would be asinine. Like what do you mean VJ Edgecombe wants to come to bit? Sure, absolutely. Like you don't not do that. But what I'm saying is that you have to I think you have to try to get those 5-star prospects, maybe some lower 4-star prospects, hope that they stick around a little bit, and then you can kind of backfill with juniors and maybe a 5th-year senior. But like backfilling with 2 5th-year seniors and a 6-year senior that's a journeyman, I just don't think works. And I mean, we've seen like who's been the national champion? UConn. Like all those UConn teams, I feel like they've been together for at least 2 to 3 years. And I know they're constantly bringing in younger and younger talent also because they're UConn. But the guys on that last championship team were sophomores, juniors. What was Klingon? Klingon was a sophomore or junior. You know what I'm saying? I just think that the way that you have to build now, the calculus is different than from what it used to be for college basketball.
Yeah, no, it really is. All right, we'll take a break right here. When we come back, I want your thoughts on the Super Bowl. I know how. I think that's pretty much how a lot of people feel. It's like
it's going to be the most watched Super Bowl ever, and no one's going to enjoy it.
And they're like, all right, great. Yeah. Like, okay. Like, I know how. Like, I don't have anything against the Chiefs. My wife is very tired of them. But I think, I know she just like, and again, she's a Titans fan. So,
oh, okay.
I get it. Like, I'm not a Chiefs hater. I don't hate them. I'm bored with it.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, it's time for something else. I get it. I mean, same way I was with the Patriots. Like, I didn't hate them, but wouldn't have hated if it wasn't them. And I was a big Brady fan. I just like, we get it. You're great. And the Philadelphia Eagles just make me feel like I have hives. like hives. And when I watch them win, when I watch them do everything so much better than the Cowboys do it, like I feel like I have them right now. Like, am I breaking out? Do you see it? Like, am I?
Yeah, maybe a little bit
out?
like right here.
Like right here? Yes, I know. Like every part of it feels like I'm rolling around in fiberglass insulation.
We'll get you some talcum powder after the break.
Yeah, it's just, and then the thing is I have to watch like, Howie Roseman's just the best at this. I'm like, I know he is. I know he is. And like, here's the thing. Nick Sirianni's not even really that good of a coach. Like comparatively to Andy Reid, he's not even close. He's not even in the stratosphere. But they've dummy-proofed the team so much. It's like, you can point to every team in the league except for maybe the Eagles and, like, maybe it's just the Eagles because I think the Chiefs even have guys who kind of suck. Like, the Eagles, who sucks on the Eagles? Name me one player who you can be like, oh, that guy sucks.
Quarterback.
No.
I'm kidding.
No.
I'm kidding. Don't get mad at me.
No one. Who sucks? Garrett, who sucks on the Eagles?
Nobody I can think of.
Yeah. The Chiefs, they have a bunch of kind of over-the-hill wide receivers, and that's the worst thing I say about them. You can't say that about the Eagles at all. Who sucks? No one does. It's maddening. I can list you. Give me the Cowboys roster. I'll give you a sucks list. I'll give you a big-time sucks list. Golly. When we come back, we'll talk Super Bowl with the Royden. This is the Triple Option.
Golfers, do you suffer from constantly buying new golf gloves?
All the time.
Does your golf glove get sweaty, crusty, or torn?
Over and over again.
Well, the innovative new Claw glove might be for you. The Claw will outlast, play cooler, and grip better than traditional leather gloves.
Side effects may include more greens hit, big payouts from your buddies, and in some cases, shooting your lowest round.
I have the power to lower my score with Claw Glove.
Go to clawgolfglove.com to see if Claw Glove is right for you.
Fubo TV has the channels you love for half the cost of cable. Watch your teams live in 4K. Plus, entertainment for the whole family. Record to the cloud and watch anywhere. Try free at FuboTV.com.
Did you know that most calorie deficit calculators don't work? My dietitian recommended the Last app to me, and it turned out to be the only one that got my calorie deficit right. Thanks to it, I lost 14 pounds in 1 week. Ready to kickstart your journey to healthy weight loss? Calculate your ideal calorie deficit using the Last app right now.
Life will test you. It will turn your world upside down. Again, and again, and again. The only way to hit back is to stand up. Stand up every time and say, I'm not done.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
All right, so I do have to address something that was brought up. It is college football season is over, and I wondered when this would happen. And already, I've seen people, like, they're saying UNC's leaving the ACC and going to the SEC.
Start.
All right.
Stop.
Like, if ESPN allows it, blah, 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 blah. All right. Stop. Stop it. This is what happens when the season is over. And the people who you are saying are doing this is the only thing that they do to get views. It is clickbait. It is realignment porn. I'll run my realignment porn thing. We have it still. I'll run it on this show if it continues into tomorrow. I have no problem taking 7 minutes off and rerunning that and saying, look, here's the people you need to listen to. Dennis Dodd, Ross Dellinger, Brett McMurphy, Pete Thamel, Andy Staples, people like that who talk to actual administrators and coaches. The people that you are talking about don't even know, like, don't talk to them at all.
But don't you know you can't?
Especially if one of them is one you told me, that motherfucker used to work here.
Oh, don't believe a damn thing. No.
So I shouldn't have said that word, but he, like, don't. Don't. All right? I don't, like, don't.
Don't you know, though, Paul, you can't trust established media anymore?
I guess
Yeah,
not.
thanks.
Establishment media.
I'm going to cut it off. I'm going to cut it off. I shouldn't have said that.
I'm
word.
trying
That was
to-
really
I'm-
bad. I usually don't give him oxygen, but it drives me absolutely insane that every year, as soon as the season's over, we've got these dorks, these realignment dorks that just like, oh, here's how it's going to be. And look, I'm not saying it's not going to go down that way, but why is the ACC going to agree to any of this? They have 2 schools that are suing them right now. They're just going to let UNC out because the SEC wants them? It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Because they got Bill Belichick.
I shouldn't even have said anything about it. Dear God. Yeah, yes, Conundrum, gaslighter. Yes, that's a good thing. It's your fault. You told me about this. I'm mad at you today. I was happy enough to go along not thinking about them. I was like, well, this is going to be a year where we really don't because there's not a lot, especially with the house settlement and everything else going on. Like, I don't see that. I'll tell you, I think FSU, like the ACC is going to stay intact until probably about 31. Like, that's going to be the agreement of like, okay, we'll shorten it 31. We'll let everybody, when everybody's out in the market, we'll see what happens next.
Especially the success of getting 2 teams in the playoff too, as well. I mean, I don't know, but I think I don't want to talk about it because it's boring.
Yeah.
But I've done my own research on this, and I just think that y'all should know. No, man, listen to reporters.
Yeah.
Like it's pretty simple.
Yeah.
The distrust of like anything is baffling. Just listen to the guys that like are doing the breaking news. Actually,
yeah. So
pretty simple.
It's just there are people who are plugged in, and there are people who pretend to be plugged in. And here's where you know the difference.
The pretend to be plugged in guys. I will say this is like somebody who has like seen all the and Twitter's a cesspool, but like the idea that like they're getting their news from actual, are forming their own opinions from people that have actual knowledge of the situation, or if they're not, they're straight up lying.
Yeah.
It's like you got to put in the byline, so-and-so is reporting, and I'm reporting what he is reporting.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's that simple. Otherwise, it doesn't exist. It's in the ether. It's what's Wolf of Wall Street. It's fairy dust.
Yeah.
There is no number.
Yeah. It's fugazi.
It's a fugazi.
Yeah. That's what it is. And so, you know what? Forget about the Super Bowl. I don't care what you think. I'm going to spend the rest of the time talking about that.
I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah. So, no, but I mean, it's true. Like, and again, like I'm kind of yelling into the void at Conundrum here, but I'm just trying to do you a service, man. Again, the reporters that know this, here's how you know the difference. A real reporter will not use the words, my sources. They will just say
sources.
Source or sources. And when I tell you, when it's McMurphy and Dodd and Staples and they say source, they're going to back that up with who that source was more than likely once the
reporting comes out.
Once it's actually official.
Yeah.
Because here's how it works. Royden is my source. He's the athletic director at North Carolina. And I call up Royden and I say, hey, Royden, are you guys leaving the ACC? And he goes, no. And I'll say, but don't say I said it. Source, UNC not leaving ACC. My sources tell me that is the BS line. That's no. It's not my sources, it's source. Because real reporters know that source is not just theirs most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
They'll tell the other reporters that they trust, which is why the same 6 guys get to break every story. It's whoever the person that is sending that information out, like goes down alphabetically in their phone and goes, okay, boom, 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 here it is.
It is an in club, and a lot of people are not in it.
Yeah. My sources. So I'm not saying ignore podcast Conundrum. I'm saying look who it is. And not everything everybody says, like you have to base it on their history and their credibility and what they've gotten right before. And if they're let's throw everything up on the wall, and you throw everything to the wall and eventually something sticks, it doesn't mean you were right. It means you were lucky. Like that doesn't, you and I are big movie buffs.
Yeah.
We can sit and talk about all the things we think are going to happen in Captain America.
Right.
And if one of them is right and all the rest are wrong, I told you that was going to happen.
It's a Screen Rant aggregate.
Yeah.
That's all it is. You see a Screen Rant article, and people know what I'm talking about. It's just it'll get aggregated on Facebook or whatever, where it's just like 10 things that could happen in Captain America, and it's just like, we told you in a previous article that the Red Hulk was going to be, and it's like, yeah, but everything else was BS. So I didn't.
I told you the Red Hulk was going to be in it. He might be trans. No, okay, well, let's. Yeah, I guess he might be.
He could, yeah.
I mean,
anything is possible.
He also might not be, and then so like we always said might. Well, why'd you bring it up?
Right.
Why'd you bring it up? So conundrum. I get that you're like probably a horrible person who does horrible things, and like you throw Eric quotes like "thanks for the teaching lesson." I'm trying to help you out and teach you how the world works. But if you don't want to believe me, don't believe me. Go ahead and believe every. You can say that I'm the liar, but I'm pretty happy with my record of honesty, and I'll just tell you that it makes no sense to say that the SEC and UNC are just going to happen out of the blue, considering that the 2 lawsuits they have against the other 2 teams are not settled. There's just nothing going on right now. So why are they going to get involved in another one and have this back and forth?
Also, the last time that we had major conference shakeup, didn't it take 2 years for those teams to then join said conference? It's not happening immediately.
And again, the grant of rights is what they're arguing over. So unless North Carolina has magically found a way out of this, which, again, the ACC will fight, because if North Carolina figures it out, then Florida State and Clemson will be like, we're out too.
Yeah.
Or the whole thing's going to shake up. So
the Chiefs are favored by, I think, 1.5.
Now, again, if Ross Dellinger says it, then I will believe it. But I don't see anything that Ross has said today about it. So believe me, Ross would know. This is a guy who doesn't get, and I know, I ruined the Super Bowl thing. I'm on a rant. This is a guy who, he was on vacation last year in the mountains and then had to open his laptop because something broke. Because he can't get away from this machine. So if he hasn't said anything about it, I'm just telling you it's probably not happened yet. And not to say that it won't, but like just to come out of nowhere, and for the people who only thrive on realignment and nothing else, they don't thrive. Like, we could do a full realignment show all the time and maybe get some clicks. In fact, I'll say our numbers are down since realignment's been down. And I'm sure that's part of it, because the realignment dorks don't have anywhere, like we are not providing any kind of realignment fodder for them. I'm fine with that, because I'm fine with not just making shit up to try to drive what we do. And so you've kind of hit one of my pet peeves here, which is the realignment pornographers. If they only talk about realignment, then they're not really reporters. They're just saying things. And I don't even claim to be a reporter. I am a podcaster. I'm just telling you how often do I break news?
No.
No. I don't break news because that job sucks. I don't want to be Pete Thamel. He's great at his job. I don't want to be him.
Didn't we go over that about, like, of course, like, Wojciechowski got sick, and that was kind of the reason that he moved on. But didn't we go over, like, the Adam Schefters and stuff of how much that job sucks? I think we had a bit on this.
Yeah, y'all did a segment on that.
Yeah, we did a whole segment on how much that job is like. It's like the bit that, like, Schefter got on the Pat McAfee show and was like, I was in the middle of having sex with someone and had to break some news about a coach being fired.
Yeah.
It's like that is awful, man.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's terrible. It's terrible. You don't want to, like, again, if you're good at that job and you want it, and you're going to make money doing it, that's great. But, Ross loves college football, but he barely gets to cover games now because he's been so good at covering all this other nonsense. So, yeah, if it's not one of those guys, I'm sorry. Like, I don't trust the source.
I just want to completely derail this by asking, just because I've covered it on the news a couple, and we don't have to talk about the Super Bowl anymore, but speaking of somebody that's going on, this is a hard cut transition, speaking of somebody that's going on 30 years without one, what do we think about Schottenheimer? I just wanted to get...
What do we think about it?
Yeah,
I mean, like it's I mean, I don't think it's a net positive or negative. Like, it's not anything. And here's the thing. It doesn't matter who the coach is of that team. It does not matter. From Chan Gailey on, it has not mattered who the coach is.
Meaning no matter what the talent is on the team or not?
No. I mean, well, the thing is they're not getting – the talent on that team is overrated because they're not really all that deep. And they're good at, like, they're really good at hitting it out of the park. But you can't just rely on home runs. They don't hit a lot of doubles.
Tell that to the 2000 Cincinnati Reds.
But yeah, you can't you can't just hit home runs all day long. You got to get some doubles and singles. You got to steal some bases. The Cowboys they're big boppers, right?
Yeah.
They'll get a Micah Parsons, a CeeDee Lamb. They'll find Tony Romo. They find these things. Like, they get these great undrafted free agents. But this is a group that is not really good at, finding those worker bees and keeping them, because part of the thing is, okay, they're going to lose Osa Odigizua, who is one of their best players this year on defense, a really good defensive tackle. Again, that they drafted in the later rounds was a really good find for them. But they're not going to be able to re-sign him because they're so bad at the salary cap that they don't know how to, work these things. And guess where he's probably going to go? He's going to go play for the guy who drafted him, Dan Quinn. The guy who's like, hey, I like this Oso Digizua. He's probably going to be wearing burgundy and gold next year.
Let's do it.
Yeah, see? Shut up, Garrett.
Hey, I'm enjoying my
I just wanted to talk about it mostly because I don't want to talk about realignment anymore. But the idea that you watched the press conference, right?
Yeah.
Of course you did.
Every second. Well, not almost every second.
Garrett, did you watch it?
Just the clips we ran. I saw 4 clips from it. It was very boring.
Mostly boring, but interspliced in there was the ramblings of a madman.
Yep.
What happened?
Okay. Would you like me to? I'll teach you how to answer a question like Jerry Jones. I think this will be a fun little thing.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Ask me any question about anything in the world.
Anything in the world.
Anything in the world, and I'll answer it how Jerry Jones would.
What do you think about glory holes?
Listen,
because he talks about that a lot.
Yeah.
Which is not what he thinks it means now in today's context. But anyway,
I
Jerry, what do you think about glory holes?
First of all, before I get into this, I was there when he said it the first time in Oxnard. And Rich Dalrymple, who was the PR guy at the time, came on and said, that's an oil drilling term.
Yes.
And then Jerry said, that's not what I heard. So he knows what it is. he knows what it is.
Saying it.
He knows what it is. So here's the thing. I could go all over the country, all over the world. And I've been there. I've had a lot of success. I've been in a lot of places. Mm-hmm. A lot of places have bathrooms. A lot of places have different kind of things. And I can talk to people. And I'll talk to people about what's in those bathrooms. I talk to this guy about what's in that bathroom. I'll talk to this guy what's in that bathroom. And you want to talk about, about glory holes? Mm-hmm. The thing is, it's not just getting to the glory hole. Like, it is the process of, talking to people about all this. And I've taken a lot of risks. Mm-hmm. You don't just walk in to a glory hole and, things happen. I mean, there's patience that's involved. You gotta wonder if somebody's sitting on the other side. You wonder, is that person on the other side someone I want to do this to me? I mean, there's a lot of questions you have about it. Mm-hmm. So when I'm talking about this, and I've had a lot of success. I mean, it was a risk when I went to the first one.
Right.
46 years ago. It was a big risk. And I've taken more risks in the last 5 years than I have in the previous 35. Mm-hmm. I'll just tell you that. That's because when you go into there, when you go into one, you think about it. You think about all the people who could have been in there before you. Am I at the end of the line? Am I at the front of the line? Is this person enthusiastic on the other side of the wall? Am I just at the end of the shift? I mean, there's a lot of questions you got to ask. I bring all these people. Steven, I'll send him in. I'll send Will McClay. I'll send him in first. I mean, I want to know their opinion on these things. Dak, I mean, I'm not, worried about the clock on these things either.
Right.
When it comes to Dak, I'll send Dak in that room too. Mm-hmm. And, sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But I'll tell you right now that, when you put your dinger in that hole, mm-hmm. Eventually it's going to pay off. And there's nothing I'd rather see than everybody in the Dallas Cowboys put their dinger in that hole.
Yes, Mr. Jones. Actually, the question was about CD Lamb's contract.
Oh, yeah. This might be a recurring bit of just
I think
give
we
me
have to
just give me a topic and
It's actually it's not. Watch the press conference. It's not that far off. I was trying to cut sound bites for the news to talk about, and the idea that he went up there and was like, you did the bit about the wrist, but that's like A+ because he just said he just said Schottenheimer. Yeesh is like basically what he said. Yeah. He was like, this is the biggest risk that you could possibly take on a head coach. I don't even know his name. Like,
never have been a head coach. That's a risk right there. And what I tell you about osmosis, I mean, he's been around. I mean, not just, that name, Schottenheimer's father, but, Pete Carroll.
He has the McConaughey platitudes energy where it's just like, you listen to Green Lights by McConaughey and you're like,
yep.
What? I don't know what journey I was on, but I enjoyed it a little bit. But I don't know where I ended up.
I love it. I love the audiobook.
I read Green Lights, and it was great. And
the
then
audiobook.
Garrett's like, no, you got to audiobook it. So now I need to audiobook it because in my head I'm just reading Green Lights, and he's like, look, how do I keep getting caught in this
It's spot
stuff?
on, dude.
I mean, it's, and so, When
I was growing up in Uvalde, Texas, my dad used to tell me.
Yeah. Barry Crawford did say Glory Hole is the actual name for a fixed round spillway in a lake that exits via a conduit.
Yeah, but it's like, I think it is like an old oil term.
Yeah.
But like he used it again in
the glory holes and smiles is what he said.
Yeah.
Glory. So that's the second time. So he knows these things. But at this point, again, he is going to do things his way because here's what I think there are, and I thought this when my father got old. My dad, if he were still alive, at the same exact age as Jerry, but my dad turned 68, 69. Like there were just things he would do. Like he would just walk out in his boxer shorts and get the mail, and it was just like right out the door. It was like 30 seconds that it took him. So it wasn't like he was walking all the way to the end of the street, but occasionally somebody's going to drive by and I'd be like, Dad, pants. And he's like, I worked hard in my life. I don't have to wear pants. And it happens to everybody. I can't wait to get to that point where Amanda's like, put some pants on. And I'm like, don't tell me I'm a business devil woman. No.
Pants are a government psyop.
But no, I get that. Like, Dad, please okay, well, all right,
Yeah.
I won't be embarrassed. Like, if you're not embarrassed, I'll try not to be. But Jerry is at the, I think this about any old man that's in the White House. If you're over 60 and in the White House, it makes me nervous because eventually they're going to have to tell you, sir, you have to put your pants on to go to this press conference. And they're like, I've been a senator for 80 years. Sir,
I was passing government funding bills and you were in diapers.
Do you know how successful I am?
Yeah.
I didn't get that way by following societal norms.
You still need to wear pants.
Yeah. So that's where Jerry is. Jerry's at okay, well, sometimes he's going to go out without his pants on, and everybody around just has to deal with it.
Yeah, somebody compared it to is like he was older than Joe Biden.
Yeah. Mitch McConnell. Thank you, Paxton. Yeah, Mitch McConnell's a great example of, sir, what do you think about the budget? Oh, he's just in deep thought.
Yeah.
All right, that's going to do it for us today. We've got Mac Rhodes in studio. We have Zach Gelb. I'm leaving somebody out that's awesome. Manny Navarro, actually, we've circled back with him. Hopefully he got the email today. We'll keep trying until he does. We'll have all that coming up in an hour. This is 360. Well, that is 365 Sports. This is the triple option. He's Royden Ogletree. I don't know what's going to happen in the Super Bowl next week, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
All right. See you later.
That's some huge news. We have officially found the unlock to optimizing performance for young athletes. Now, for the past 15 years, I've been training quarterbacks.